What's going on, Zoot Junkies? It is so nice to be back in a clean shop. I've actually spent majority of the day, probably all day actually, cleaning the shop. It was in destitute. Workbench was just covered in just junk, all kinds of projects. I cleaned it up. I needed to rearrange a few things, you know, reorganize. You guys know how it is. You get more tools, you get more stuff. You kind of have your shop set up a certain way, and then you start finding stuff that you don't use as often, that don't need to be out, and then stuff that you do use more often that needs to be put out. So that's kind of what I did today for majority of the day. But I had a comment in the last video where I was showing off what the Hobart Handler 140 can do about my Vise stand. So I wanted to kind of go over that particular tool that I made, and I need to repair that tool because in the last video I edited it out, but I'll just show you. So that 6-pound moneymaker, I can slam away on this 6-inch vise all day with it and it doesn't hurt anything. Yeah, one whack on that 4-inch vise and it just broke. And I had a feeling too when I was gonna do it, I was like, man, I'm gonna break something. And it broke. So I get to upgrade vices. And I get to upgrade vices to something that's, I think it's gonna be useful for this application. It didn't exist, or they didn't have it in stock or whatever, whenever I went to buy the 4-inch vise for the stand. But it's the same company, it's Irwin, but it's a quick release vise. So it has a lever that you pull that disengages, I guess, the threaded portion on the Acme thread that allows you to open the vise jaw just without having to sit there and spin it all out. So you pull the lever, you can slide it in and out, and then you can slide it, re-engage it, and then tighten down on what you want. Which I think is going to be better for that particular setup. I don't really think it's going to, they don't make it in a 6-inch vise anyways. I don't know how strong it is compared to a traditional vise. So the 6-inch vise, I'm okay with it being the way it is, but that vise, I only ever use it to hold stuff. Let me go ahead and show you all that stand. Oh, and before I get to taking this piece off, I want to show you all a new tool that I have to try out that I think will probably be really good for like trail rigs and stuff. So y'all know that I use mainly like rigid tools, but I do like Milwaukee tools. I really like the M12 line. You know, I've got that 1/4-inch ratchet that I love, and then I've got a cordless Dremel. But you know, I wanted to try something else that was a little bit beefier. You know, air tools can kind of be cumbersome, you know, to have an air hose dragging behind you and all whatever. So Milwaukee, for their M12 battery line, have these stubby impacts. This is a 3/8. Just because I have a 1/2-inch impact by rigid and I have an air, you know, I've got a pneumatic one. In a 1/4-inch, I feel it's overkill because this tool in forward and reverse is like 250 foot-pounds. It'll actually pull wheel lug nuts off, so that's pretty cool. I think this will be a really cool addition to, like, if you're running on a trail. It's really small, it's compact, it fits into just tighter spots. So I just wanted to show y'all that, you know, just talk about it. You know, I'll be using it in the shop, so we'll see how it fares. But let's go ahead and just pull this vise off. Alright, so this is going to make it a lot easier to show y'all kind of what I did. So the engine stand is basically unchanged, except for this little plate that I put here. I have a little magnetic tray that I can stick right here, and I can, you know, put my ratchet and sockets and like nuts and bolts in. That's why I did that. It just made it easier while I was working on it. But y'all have seen like a traditional engine stand. Usually there's a hole in the top and you drop a pin. The only thing that I did differently was I welded a nut, and there's a bolt, you know, this is the proper thread pitch and size, and then I welded another bolt on top and I put some nuts on the back end for a handle. That is like your stopper to grab. It works on the engine stand portion and on this portion, you know, so whenever you lock it down, it won't twist. You undo it and then it will spin, you know, and it just, you can bring it all the way out if you want to or whatever. But then you take this piece out, and this is just a piece of pipe that was close to the size of the inner diameter of this pipe. I actually had to take this pipe and work it down with a flapper disc on a angle grinder, and just work it down and try it, and then work it down and try it. And then whenever I got the pipe diameter the size I want, I don't know what I did for the rationale of the length, but ultimately the size came out to be 8 inches. But, you know, I hit it with a flapper disc until I could get it in as far as I wanted. I think it actually goes all the way through to probably about like right here is where it'll go. And then I took a piece of plate that was simply, I just kind of got the overall not diameter, I would say. I guess just like the spacing of these bolts, and I made a plate that was just square version of that, you know, so that way it would bolt on there. And then I did a hole saw, and I cut a hole in the plate, so that way not only could I weld the outside of the plate to the pipe, I could weld the inside of the plate to the pipe. Now, this other black portion that you see right here, that was added later, because when I originally made it, I didn't have that. So what would happen was, when I would loosen this and I would spin the workpiece, this adapter would slide in. Well, if you look at the distance from this handle to this, if I were to slide in anymore, this handle would make contact with the plate that holds the vise, and then I wouldn't be able to open and close it. So I don't know how many months later, I was just kind of, man, wish there was a way that I could space that out. So this part is actually from a piece of pipe like this. This piece in particular is 2.5 inch, because this is what I'm going to use to make pie cuts for the new downpipe. But whenever I was doing the exhaust from this, I was adapting 2.5 inch from the turbo back to the 2-inch exhaust. So this is the expanded joint of a 2-inch piece of pipe, like this expanded portion I cut off. And all I did is I slid it over here. You know, I cut it off with a bandsaw, and then I just had it laying around, because I don't really throw away scrap metal. Whenever you start doing little welding projects, you realize how valuable it is just to keep spare metal. And I slid it down, and then I just welded it here, and that became my stopper, so that way it wouldn't keep sliding back down. I'm going to show y'all, this is actually still a functioning engine stand. So I've actually got the engine stand portion that slides in here attached to the Suzuki Samurai 1.3 liter. So I'll show y'all just how easy it is to swap in and out. Yeah, these Suzuki Samurai motors are not that heavy. So, at least just the bottom end. So it's pretty easy just to, you know, put the engine stand portion on, even with like a little bitty 4-cylinder aluminum block motor on and off. Now I need to kind of show y'all the upgraded vise / repair. So we'll get the new vise. It's not even a proper unboxing. I actually unboxed it at the store because I wanted to make sure that the bolt pattern was the same. I didn't want to have to re-drill holes, and it actually is the exact same bolt pattern. versus the old Vise, because they still offer the same old 4-inch Vise. The only difference is that these have nuts versus these ones had these little like quick adjuster pieces. And then this base plate looks thicker, but it's also a different design too. Like this one uses kind of like an inner race portion that goes in, and that's how it spins. Versus this one, it's actually just got slots cut into the base plate, and it's got some dome-headed like carriage-looking bolt pieces that slide around. For this application, I really think I'm going to like the bolted-in aspect. You can kind of see the mechanism too in there, but. So there's like the thickness level. But if you look at the bolt holes, even though this other bracket is, oh no, look, they don't line up. Wait. Oh no, they don't line up. Wow, misguided as hell at the store. The bolt holes do not line up. They lined up with the one at the store. I guess this one's different. So, great. Means I'm gonna have to do some modifications. I guess what I'll do is I'll just drill another hole right next to it and I'll slot it so I can go in between. Let me show you all this vise real quick up close before we do that. So, you know, you got your regular open and close motion. And if you look inside that, well, that little lever's in the way. So if you look in there, you can kind of see, I guess, the bottom of the Acme thread. And there in the bottom, you can see the mechanism that pulls it away. The Acme threads are actually like far more coarser than it's actually bigger too. Like look at how small those Acme threads are and how small the diameter of that shaft is compared to how big that is. So this piece actually seems like it's a little beefier. At least with the Acme thread. The nice thing about it being coarser is that you will get far more movement with less spinning, which I think is probably better for a vise. You don't want fine thread, because then you'd be just sitting there spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning just to open and close it. So not only does it have the quick disconnect that makes it open and close quick, it's also coarse threaded, which I think would be nice. There is also these vice jaw clamps are a little bit thicker on this one than this one. I think it's going to be an issue for just holding and being able to grind and weld and stuff like that. I don't think it's going to be an issue. Look at that. So the original base plate that has this step piece. Here's something. This is awesome. So that original inner base plate piece that spins, if you look, it lines up with the grooves in the new vise. So I can reuse the original base plate. I don't have to modify it actually. Yes, that is freaking awesome. I love that. And I kind of like I mean, this thing feels kind of just cheap, kind of, sort of, compared to this old one. I don't know if it would make a big difference. Yeah. This feels kind of just like a lot lighter than this one. It just feels beefier. I don't know if it makes a big difference at all. I don't know. Maybe they engineered it so that we're like, oh, we could use less material, blah, 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 whatever. I don't know. I mean, the fact that I don't have to do any more work to it, that's nice, because I mean, I already kind of like drilled the holes in the plate, did everything, did all that work, and it's like, and then I did that, and then later down the road, I had it all powder coated, you know, so it won't rust. So I would hate to have to mess with that. So we will reuse the old base plate with the new Vise portion. And it really doesn't matter to me that I have the quick adjustment little handles, just because the Vise, with this tool I can rotate it 360 degrees, so I don't need to loosen it to spin the Vise into, like, on the plate. Like, I can just spin the whole plate, so that's kind of irrelevant. It would have been fine just to have the nut and the bolt that lock it down in one position. I need my impact gun, my new fancy impact gun. Oh, it doesn't fit. So it doesn't fit in there. I'm gonna have to enlarge in that hole with something. A reamer, drill bit. Oh, I know what I could use. I'll use some of the stuff that I use for porting to make this hole bigger. Attempt numero dos. Nothing like using a screwdriver like a hammer, right? That's what's up. Wow. Loosen it a little bit, open it. Cool. I think I like this Vise a lot better. Well, y'all Zook junkies, that is my Vise stand. Really simple, just adaptation to make one tool do two different things. I mean, anybody that's ever, rebuilt an engine, you have to have an engine stand, and when you're not using the engine stand, it just takes up space. It's just in the way. So it's really cool that I was able just to make another piece that can slide in, and I can use the engine stand for something else. And I have a couple of other ideas for actually using this engine stand dual purposely, or multi-purposely. At this point it's already dual purpose, it'll be multi-purpose. But I hope that answers the question that the one subscriber had about this particular tool that I made. If this was content that you enjoyed watching, be sure to smash that like button, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so that way you can stay up to date on what I've got going on in one of two shops. Also be sure to check out Elk Motorsports Patreon page in case you feel the urge or the generosity of supporting the channel and the Suzuki Samurai community. And I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace! business. Aside from a step stool.